In this life, we will experience dark times. We will have times of uncertainty, trials, and times of grief. But through God's infinite grace, we can experience a deep level of joy and clarity.
YouTube, what's up everybody? My name is Montez and I want to welcome you all back to another episode of Infinite Grace TV, The Journey. The purpose of this channel is to help people navigate through the journey of unpacking self and discovering what it means to be whole. And the way this is achieved is through a method that I coined tapping in. To tap in simply means to walk in these spaces transparent, accountable, persistently pursuing healing. And this is all through the means of being integrated and also being near the cross. It's because only before the cross of Christ can one come fully broken, fully shattered, receive infinite grace, and stand fully pieced together. So if you're new to this channel and you want to do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, come tap in with me. Also do me a favor, share, like, and comment below so that this video can get out to other people, because I think today's episode is going to be very impactful and very insightful. So without further ado, let's hop into today's episode. So I'm going to be very, very candid here. Singleness sucks. I'm just going to start there. Now, I know for like a lot of the married people and a lot of people who have like been through singleness, I hear it all the time, brother, your one is coming and things of that sort. Well, I understand. I get it. I want to talk about how I've kind of been navigating singleness, because it's been sort of a reality check for me. I believe like a lot of times when people paint their journey of singleness, it seems like there was this, seamless kind of transition for them. And sometimes people don't really share some of the frustrations of being single, especially when you have a desire to be married, and especially when you have the desire to do things right. In 2018, I had, the amazing opportunity to propose, and that completely went up in flames, unfortunately. I thank God for that not happening, because I believe I wasn't ready at that time. Like, I had a lot of healing and maturity to kind of walk into before I actually like committed myself to someone. And granted, many people have arguments, hey, take your time, get married when you're older. And then there's so many people, hey, get married when you're younger. And I really think it's based upon the person, right? Some people, it is more beneficial for them, maybe because of the baggage, some of the baggage they have, to get married at a later age so that they can have that time to kind of navigate and unpack some of those different things. And for some, maybe you didn't have a lot of traumatic experiences, like sexual molestation, everything. That is my story. And so I had a lot to unpack. I had a lot of ways that I was codependent that I needed to unpack. And I'm thankful that I spent, majority of my 20s single, right? Yeah, I've dated. Yeah, I've been in relationships, but I've spent that time, and I've been spending this time kind of unpacking a lot of the trauma surrounding around relationships in the first place. For me, the desire to be married no longer stems from a place of, man, I just want to have guilt-free sex and I just want to have kids and I have this fantasy in my head. My desire for marriage really now stems from a place of what my mentor coined as like an abundance, right? Like, I have this desire because I have all of this to give, right? I want to serve my future spouse in a way where I have a lot to give. And I understand now more than ever, as I am, pursuing relationship with just people, how I can offer them like a part of myself, and how I can really help cultivate a healthy relationship in whatever capacity that is in. Whether that's, my guys, right? Like, being a better friend. What does it look like to be a better friend? What does it look like to serve my brothers? What does it look like to love my brothers well? And how can I intentionally do life with my brothers so that I'm in the way that I'm gifted, adding value to their lives. For my female friends, right? I was just talking to one of my friends and I told her, I said, yo, I said, it's kind of funny that God has given me a heart to be intentional with my friendships because I'm low key like practicing. I have my little sister's one of my closest friends, right? And I said, like, I'm practicing on her, like, because the way that I treat the women in my life right now, my mom, my sisters, my aunts, even the female friends that I have, like, is ultimately the way that I'm going to treat my future spouse. And I've had to be very intentional about looking at that and even asking for that kind of constructive criticism. Like, man, in what ways can I be better at serving you? In what ways can I love you more and love you better? But some of the things and some of the ways that I've kind of navigated singleness hasn't always been the best. Number one, I shared in my previous video, I lost my job because of sexual sin. I took a lot of the frustrations that I had and a lot of the heartbreak that I experienced in that time, and I kind of just ran off and I was like, man, I'm just gonna go and exchange this cheap substance to fill a void that was never meant to fill that void. In fact, I needed Jesus to fill that void fully. But because I was really wrestling with rejection and with loneliness, I ran to these things that I thought was going to fill me, but it only created a bigger deficit in my heart. And so spending that time to heal from that reality, and healing is a consistent thing that we will forever walk into. It's a consistent thing we will forever walk through. But spending this time healing, one of the things that I realized was where those God-sized holes stem from in the first place. And so as I've been like walking on this journey of unpacking myself and unpacking those voids and allowing the Lord to do the work in my heart, I've realized that I realized that my desire for marriage is way more than just, hey, like, I want to fill this void, right? It's now, man, I have all of this that I'm cultivating. The number one thing that kind of led Adam to acknowledging there's no mate suitable for me was God gave him a job. God gave him a vision. God gave him something to cultivate. And as he was doing his job, as he was cultivating and investing into the vision that God gave him, he acknowledged as he looked up, man, like, there's none suitable for me. And that's when God kind of took him through that process of putting him to sleep and bringing out his rib and forming Eve, and that she would be his helpmate. And so as I've been kind of navigating through this journey, I've been honest. And the biggest thing I've had to be honest about is how sometimes singleness does suck. And a lot of times I would hear from married people or people in relationship, oh, brother, your time is coming. Like, yeah, I know. Like, these are things that I do know, Lord willing, right? Like, I don't believe I was called to celibacy, but Lord willing, that she would come quick. And when you begin to kind of like pray those things, people kind of give that pressure of like, man, you kind of like rushing it, or you're like impatient. They always say, hey, don't settle and all. Like, these are things that I know. And this is the reason why, like, I am still single, is because I acknowledge there is more benefit to chilling, right? Meeting people. And yeah, it's okay to go on dates and everything, but I've learned this. You don't date to marry. Like, you do not date to marry. You date to get to know the person. You engage to marry. And there's a huge difference. In the way that I've navigated dating in the past was hot doo-doo water, right? Like, I had this kind of impatience, and it would create a lot of pressure, not just for me, but for the person that I was dating, and it's not fair. And so as I've been kind of navigating this space, right, there have been times where I've been real with the Lord, and I've said, Lord, like, this sucks. And I believe like he can handle that. Like, I believe he can handle me saying, God, like, it gets frustrating being single, because you want that closeness and you want that intimacy, not necessarily like sex, but you want that closeness to be known and seen by someone that is a significant other. And God gives that to me fully, but I believe he also has created people specifically like spouses to be that as well. And so as I've been navigating, some of the lessons that I've learned is contentment is not the absence of like desire. A lot of times when people would paint their singleness journey, it always seemed like, yeah, I was completely fine and I was completely okay with being single. Like I am okay with being single, but it was almost as if they would say like, yeah, I had no desire whatsoever. And that could be true for some people, but that's not true for me. That is not true for me. Like my desire has increased now that God has given me this crazy vision to carry out. And he's been like, yo, go. And I've just been like, all right, Lord, I'm going to go and I'm doing this. But also, Lord, like, I need some help. I want someone whom I can build this with. And so I've realized like, it's not an absence of desire, but also like obedience isn't necessarily the easiest thing. It doesn't necessarily also mean that you want to, right? I reflect a lot with my people in my community, and one of the things that we were talking about how like obedience isn't always something like I desire either. Like it's not something that, oh, God told me to go that way and that's a hard route to go. Sometimes I'm like, man, God, you really want me to go down here? And I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna be real. God's gonna hear it. Like it, I have this authentic conversation with God, and I'm just like, Lord, I don't really like this route, and I didn't want to go down this route in the first place. But I'm going to be obedient because obedience is better than sacrifice, and I would rather be obedient and get to that destination, even though it's like this, than to get to that straight line thinking I'm there and then have to make a left because I didn't get the things that I needed to learn. And so for my people who are single, it is okay to wrestle with contentment, right? Like it isn't just something you arrive to. It's something that you kind of walk through. And as you find yourself maybe discontent, you can go to the Lord because he invites you to come to him. He invites you to say, Lord, this sucks and it is okay. For the people who are desiring marriage, I will honestly say, like, continue to discover what you want and what you need. I was sharing this with someone else. I said, yo, every single relationship that I have been in, the 3 that I have actually been in, like taught me something. My first relationship taught me like what I like didn't want. Not to knock these people at all, right? Like this is no knock to, but it just showed me personally. It's like, man, this I don't want that, right? I don't want the arguments that we were kind of having and everything. So it made me look at myself. It showed me a lot about myself. So it wasn't just, hey, I don't want that in that person. It was like, I don't want this in myself. My second relationship showed me some of the unhealthiness that was in me. That my previous relationship really showed me like what I needed and what I wanted. And so as you are kind of walking through this, my prayer is that you would surround yourself around older people who are married, and you would really look at their relationship and say, man, like this is what I want. I have spiritual parents, I have godparents, I have mentors in my life who through their character, through the women's character and through the men's character, it's like, man, I really want to be like that. And when I'm looking at like what I want, it's like that I have examples. And growing up with the 2-parent household, it's like, man, I've been able to see both sides. Man, I've been able to see some of the unhealthy ways, right? And I've been able to see the healthy ways as relationships grow. And so that is my encouragement for the singles. It's like, man, we all right. For the people who are married, yo, we've heard the cliches. Your time is going to come. We've heard them all. Not to say they're not helpful, but like, let's go deeper. Or let me speak for myself. Sometimes when I've gone to like some married people, not all married people, because I've gotten some dimes, right? And these dimes usually come from the people who are like my mentors. But say I'm talking to somebody and I get hit with the cliche. It's a lot of times, sometimes like, it feels like you don't want to go deeper, but if you would go deeper, you would be able to discover it's like, nah, I'm fighting for contentment. And it is a journey. And sometimes it sucks. And maybe I'm just kind of frustrated right now because I've seen somebody else get engaged. Like that is a real thing. And I understand, especially for women who are getting older, you know, you're seeing this and you desire this. I understand that frustration. And so sometimes we just need an ear, because we've heard all the cliches. We've watched the cuffing season videos by Mike Todd and Jerry Flowers, and we've seen all these amazing content, you know, all this amazing content around surrounding this. But sometimes we just need a place to be real. Like, sometimes this really sucks. Sometimes I really get lonely. Sometimes I've shot my shot and I've been turned down, and it sucks, right? As I've kind of navigated this, I've learned a lot of what not to do. A lot of what not to do, and a lot of ways that I can cultivate a healthy single season. And so I hope this encouraged you. I hope that me sharing about some of my frustrations and some of the ways that I've kind of failed would encourage you, especially if you're younger. I hope that you would learn from the people in your life's failures on what not to do and on what to do. And I pray for successful relationships for all of you. If you enjoyed today's episode, again, come tap in with me. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna tap in fully and share the authentic truth from my perspective and how I've walked through things. But if you wanna tap in, again, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, share, and comment a different point that you've learned from maybe a mentor of yours. And do me a favor, do me a favor, do me a favor. Continue to walk in these spaces fully tapped in. My name is Montez. This is Infinite Grace TV, The Journey, and I'm back out quiet.